Let's talk a little bit about used cars, like a hard turn policy. Cars have to be on lot up to a certain amount of days. How do you manage your used car operation?
We absolutely have a hard turn policy. Our goal is to turn our vehicles inside of 30 days.
Aggressive pricing or at least extremely competitive.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like we're too aggressive, but my brother does a great job running our used car operation. He makes sure that used cars has a seat at the table for every decision that we make. And we don't make the most money per copy, but we do a great job of having pretty much a 1-to-1 new to used ratio. And we turn the vehicles very quickly. We give our shops a lot of business. And by the way, the big shocker is our VI Club. 45% of our used vehicle customers become VIP members and service with us.
You're such a CPG person. You know why? Because as you're saying this, what goes through my mind is, it's a random story, but my mother, she received one of those CPG flyers in like the 90s with Dove soap. Dove, right? Till this day, all she buys is Dove soap. Just like, think about the lifetime value of that customer. Immense. From a free sample. And so as you're speaking, I'm like, oh, I know you came from CPG. It just makes too much sense.
Well, I was talking the other day about the Carl Sewell book where he mentions $332,000 in, I think it was maybe 1990 was the value of a customer. I said, well, I don't know what it is today, but based on that math, I think I did some inflation math and it was $800,000 today. I said, I don't know if it's worth $800,000 or $200,000. I just know it's worth a lot of money. I don't need to be a Wharton MBA to figure out that's where I should.
Pencils or not. This makes sense. Yeah, that's great. Tell me a little bit about your management style, right? Like there's a big thing with centralization versus decentralization. I would say some of the publics tend to be a bit more centralized. Public market auto groups maybe need a little bit more controls, processes or whatnot. But what's your philosophy on that? Running such a large group with so many GMs and different operators. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I think some of that answer starts with the footprint that you're comfortable with. For us, we're not huge thinkers. We want to be a terrific dealership group in Virginia and Maryland. So we're obviously not trying to conquer the world, but we want to be really good in Virginia and Maryland. But because of that concentration, it's very important that the Sheehy brand is consistent. Back to the seat stuff. We want to make sure that the Sheehy brand is represented in the same way, in a good way in Virginia and Maryland. So if you think about that, we can't have 27 stores running 27 different ways because a customer could buy a Nissan today and buy a VW from us tomorrow or whichever product that happens to be. And when we sell a VIP, by the way, if you're a P member and you are a VIP member at our Nissan store and you want to buy a Toyota, you can use your VIP bucks toward buying that Toyota. So everything we do is handled in a brand enhancing way for Sheehy, not a single store. So that's just a very important fact of how we have to focus. So I was just saying to our used car team, we want to be able to offer each customer an inventory of 2,000 used vehicles, an inventory of 100 used vehicles. So all of those things drive some level of centralization for us, right? Rather than we just can't say, do it your own way and send us a check at the end of the month. That's not going to work for us. So all of our customers, we look at them across the group. So I would say my management style is to do everything to create a cohesive brand, to create a group that collaborates well together, that trades used cars well together, that exchanges new vehicles well together, and that we do a lot of idea sharing. So we'll have this corporate retreat coming up in October. Well, part of that is a bonding experience for our 25 plus general managers and platform managers to make sure that we all know each other well outside of the day-to-day business, because we know there's some friction that develops and each store wants to preserve what they've accomplished. If they've got a great trade, they don't want to give that trade up to some other store. So there are things that happen, but through all of our bonding experiences and getting to know each other outside of the workplace, that makes a difference. So my management style is we want a professional operation, but we also want to make sure people are having fun while they're at work. That's a huge investment for a customer. So we want to make sure sure that, again, we have a very professional process, but we also know that people develop relationships with other people. They don't develop a relationship with Vince Sheehy. They don't develop a relationship with a beautiful building. So it's those connections. So I think within our centralized model, I think we do a good job of empowering our stores, and every store still develops a different personality despite everything I've said. And every brand has a different personality based on the product that we're selling, and the customer base a little bit different. So try to have a wide latitude of empowerment while having a pretty good framework of centralization that we're all in this together.
Are there any key parts that you intentionally keep decentralized?
Yes. Anything related to the sales operation, for example, we kick around centralized. So we have a great service BDC, terrific service BDC, best in class. But that functions a little bit different in terms of handling incoming phone calls, making outbound phone calls, handling online service appointments. That doesn't require as much of a relationship as the selling process does. So we could have a centralized sales BDC that would take it out of the store and maybe improve our show up ratios, our appointment percentage. But I feel that's better left to the store because each customer.
That's a good one, actually. That's a very good one. I've had a centralized and a decentralized BDC. And so you're right. Centralized, probably more cost efficient in some ways, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're offering the best customer experience.
No, I find that there's some difficulties in the handoff. And customers, you never know where a customer is going to take you, right? I can't predict what my customers are going to do, say, want. So it can go in a number of different directions. And I think that's best handled at the store level. And I also wouldn't want to take away their sense of purpose. And sales consultants, sure, do we handle phone calls badly sometimes? Absolutely. But I don't think handling the sales call a little bit better at the expense of developing that rapport and the relationship with the customer, I just don't think that offsets that strength. And I think you end up with a lower quality sales consultant if you don't put the trust and power in their hands.
I agree with that. You mentioned earlier, used and bringing all your operators together to work through like an academy. What is your ratio of new to used by store? And I'm not looking for numbers for every single store, but like give us a high level. Just how do you think about that across your brands?
Overall, we're 1-to-1. 30 years ago, I think we would have said, oh, we're in a new car market. Used cars aren't a big deal. And in the Washington, D.C. metro, we were probably 0.5-to-1. So we are 1-to-1. Again, my brother does a great job of keeping that in front of us all the time. And we were very focused on turn.
What about, so 1-to-1 in today's market? I would say, it's pretty impressive. Many people I speak with are not 1-to-1 still, or at this point. But my question to you is, what are you doing for used car acquisition, right? Do you have any programs to maximize lease returns, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, well, we're not in a tremendous lease market as a general rule in Virginia and Maryland. So our job becomes a little more difficult than it is in Philadelphia and places up north. But we think about it a lot. And that comes right back to the loyalty of our customer base. What are we doing to acquire used vehicles out of the service lane? And we have a couple of stores who do a phenomenal job with that. And we have many stores that are a work in progress. And I don't think we've invested enough resources in that to make it happen consistently over a long period of time. But we're very oriented toward our self-sufficiency so that we can take our ecosystem and continue to generate trades. Now, we'll also go to the auctions and buy vehicles alongside everybody else, but that should be the last resort and not the first resort for us. And I cut my teeth at auctions in the early 90s, getting this little Mitsubishi store up to speed. And that was one of the hallmarks of our success. Used cars are very important to the company. I don't think we have quite the long-term buying strategy that we want to have. We have an HQ set up for a second appraisal. So every store gets a second appraisal on a used vehicle before it goes out of there without us acquiring that used vehicle. So we do a lot of things before the auction, but this is your bailiwick and we're a work in progress every day. But I think the more we can do out of our lanes, the more successful we are going to be.
Yeah. Second appraisal. I haven't heard that one before, but it's a good one. Smart. That way you make sure you're not missing out on anything. I remember when I was growing up in the business, any vehicle that had 100,000 plus miles and stuff like that, franchise dealers would just dump it to the auction. And again, I'm generalizing, but nowadays you see everything on every lot. You can see a 20-year-old car, 140,000, but it's a Toyota, and it is on that front line of a beautiful dealership. And you see these things and you see it online, but the industry has gotten more efficient on the used side, as it has needed to, as grosses have, as there has been margin compression on the new side. Just used has obviously gotten so much more important.
Yeah, it's a key part of the business. And when I started the first store, I just came into the belief that we were going to have a good profit center in each department. And that's one of the beauties of our business. It's not, you can't ignore used, you can't ignore fixed operations, because otherwise your fixed absorption goes to hell in a handbasket. So you're in it for the whole package. And I think that's the only way to look at it from the standpoint of your people, because your people will know what you prioritize and what you consider less important than something else. And we have great people in each area of our business.